Kind of interesting that this article conveniently drops on the day that Unrivaled starts its season on True TV at 12 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday. And let's be real, school went back in today across the country, pretty much. At least most of the schools I know here in Texas. It wasn't like people were still on Christmas break or are still on Christmas break. They just started the season. By the way, started the season on the NFL's Black Monday, where now 6 head coaches no longer have jobs and has completely taken over the sports news cycle. Sucked all the wind out of it. And trust me, I did a video the other day, there wasn't even...
Monday, January 6th, 2025. As Black Monday sent 6 NFL head coaches packing, another professional league slipped into the spotlight almost unnoticed. Unrivaled, the 3-on-3 women's basketball league fueled by millions in venture capital, quietly tipped off its second season on True TV at noon on a Monday. Schools were back in session. The NFL dominated every sports headline. And then came the moment that raised eyebrows. The league's president admitted something few expected. Unrivaled might need the WNBA to survive. This isn't rumor or online chatter. Front Office Sports reported that Unrivaled president Alex Basil publicly said that nothing is off the table when it comes to a partnership with the WNBA. That statement wasn't casual. That was corporate language masking urgency. A polished way of sending a distress signal.
At all. And you didn't start this on TNT. I just can't imagine. I mean, why wouldn't you, if you have to, just do prime time, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? By the way, they're going up against WWE tonight. 1-year anniversary of Raw on Netflix. It's going to be a huge show. That's who you're going up against? Along with the...
Here's why the timing couldn't be worse. Unrivaled isn't launching against college basketball or even light WNBA preseason buzz. They're stepping straight into WWE's 1-year anniversary of Raw on Netflix, a massive, heavily promoted event, while an avalanche of NFL coaching firings dominates sports coverage for days. That alone would bury most startups. But the clearest signal of trouble came from a quieter decision. Unrivaled expanded its arena capacity by 150 seats. Not 1,500. Not 15,000. Just 150 people. That's not a growth story. That's damage control. When a league highlights an increase that small, it isn't projecting momentum. It's carefully managing a crisis, hoping no one notices how tight the margins really are.
Help to stay afloat. That's on the table. They're in big trouble, folks. Year 2 tipped off Monday with 2 matinee games following an evening slate. It comes with a clear challenge, solidifying the startup 3-on-3 in an increasingly crowded women's basketball landscape.
But to understand how things reached this point, you have to rewind. Unrivaled didn't launch as a long shot. It launched with real momentum. The league secured a Series B investment that reportedly valued it at $340 million, attracted established WNBA talent, and branded itself as the elite off-season destination for top women's basketball players. The concept was clean and compelling: 3-on-3 basketball in Miami, 6-figure paydays for roughly 2 months of work, and a way for players to stay sharp during the WNBA off-season. On paper, it made perfect sense. Having Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart as co-founders added instant legitimacy. They brought star power, credibility, and media attention, giving the league a level of visibility most startups never achieve.
Partnering with the WNBA its best bet? Question mark. Quote, I don't want to speak too much of what's going on behind the scenes, but I've made it very clear we're open to the ecosystem. I'm sure you are. Unrivaled President Alex Brazil said Monday, on the day the league's open. Quote, which way that looks like, for us, there's nothing that's on the table or off the table. Nothing that's off the table is the key takeaway there. Brazil has been open about Unrivaled's efforts to work with the WNBA from the onset. In September, he told Front Office Sports that Unrivaled went to the WNBA early and was open to a formal partnership. The WNBA...
But a problem surfaced almost immediately, and it was impossible to ignore. The players want to play real basketball, 5-on-5, not 3-on-3, not a modified format, the actual game they've built their careers around. And the biggest star in women's basketball made that message unmistakably clear without ever mentioning Unrivaled by name. Caitlin Clark, the player who single-handedly pushed WNBA ratings to historic levels in 2024, chose to pass. And she didn't do it quietly. She openly stated that her style of play doesn't translate to 3-on-3 basketball. When your league's entire business model relies on star power to drive viewership, and the most influential player in the sport refuses to participate, that isn't a marketing issue or a scheduling issue. It's a structural flaw in the product itself.
It's because of Project B, which is going to have this league in a damn bind. I mean, real fast. Quote, what you look at right now is there's a collaboration that's going on in NBA Europe. That was not a formal partnership before. As long as you can look at that space in an innovative lens, anything is doable, anything is possible. He's literally bringing up other examples of collaboration. By this time next year, Project B, the new traveling 5-on-5 league, plans to be up and running with a number of former and current Unrivaled players committed to play in the inaugural season, including Alyssa Thomas and Jewel Lloyd. Beyond that immediate threat, there's a longer-term one if the WNBA pursues exclusivity as a result of increased pay. Quote,
and it gets worse, because Caitlin Clark isn't the only star who said no. Aya Wilson, the two-time MVP and face of the Las Vegas Aces, isn't playing in Unrivaled either. Angel Reese, whose rivalry with Clark drove massive engagement all season, passed as well. Sabrina Ionescu, one of the WNBA's most marketable players, declined. That means Unrivaled launched its second season without 5 of the most recognizable faces in women's basketball. Now consider what that means financially. Unrivaled generated about $27 million in revenue in its inaugural season. On its own, that sounds impressive. But the league is valued at roughly $340 million. That revenue-to-valuation ratio only makes sense if explosive growth is coming. And that's the problem. How do you project massive growth when the biggest stars who move ratings, sell tickets, and drive conversation are choosing not to play? Especially when those stars are being pulled toward a competing ecosystem that hasn't even fully launched yet.
Coming. It's probably not coming in this CBA. But it does look like it's coming. That may be true, but there's a belief within WNBA circles that the league is still at least one collective bargaining agreement away from being able to offer salaries that warrant exclusivity. But for sustained success, Unrivaled needs to consider an increasingly crowded women's basketball ecosystem. Now, it goes on to talk about the great, and I do mean the GOAT, David Stern, coming out and talking about why the WNBA was created. It was created as a league opposite to the NBA, purposely. So people would have basketball to watch when the NBA wasn't playing. It goes on to talk about the fact that the Unrivaled's got all this new money. Well, it's just investment money. All right, Series B investment, valuing the league at $340 million. Following the inaugural season when the league banked more than $27 million in revenue, the league is trying to grow that number, selling more tickets in a small arena, increasing the capacity.
Because here's the real threat that has Unrivaled's leadership quietly reaching out to the WNBA for help. Project B. A new 5-on-5 traveling league scheduled to launch around this time next year. And it's not hypothetical. They've already secured commitments from players currently competing in Unrivaled, including Alyssa Thomas and Jewel Lloyd. Not fringe names. Stars. Players who are actively playing unrivaled second season while publicly committing to a rival league that hasn't even tipped off yet. That's not healthy competition. That's an exodus forming in real time. When your own talent is lining up for another league before it exists, you're no longer battling for market share. You're fighting to stay alive. And Project B holds the one advantage Unrivaled doesn't. It's offering the game players actually want to play. 5-on-5. Full court. The real version of basketball, not a modified format built around smaller arenas and compressed schedules.
Even in this little arena, there were empty seats. Very visible on the television screen. This league is in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. Breanna Stewart, co-founder, when talking about Project B, honestly, I don't know. Talking about, are they considered a competitor? Project B has a lot that's still in the works until they're on the ground running. No, that's no shade to them or anything. It's just different. We're playing 3-on-3 in one city. It's 5-on-5 all over the place. Yeah, but when you...
Now, let's examine exactly what Alex Bazell said, because the choice of words is telling. He told Front Off Sports, "I don't want to speak too much about what's going on behind the scenes, but I've made it very clear we're open to the ecosystem. Which way that looks like for us. There's nothing that's on the table or off the table. Nothing is off the table." That isn't the language of a league negotiating from a position of strength, it's the language of a struggling company grasping at anything that might keep it afloat. And he didn't stop there. Bazell even cited NBA Europe as an example of collaboration that wasn't a formal partnership at the time, effectively pointing to other leagues' survival strategies as potential models for his own.
Games, and I'm sure there may, I guess, maybe there's going to be some basketball fans that are going to all come together to try to flood those two matinees. But I'm guessing the ratings for those two games are going to be sub 100,000 viewers. Is that a success? And I'm talking sub 100,000, maybe with the new methodology that's artificially pumping all these numbers up. This was code word, like business code word for Adam Silver. You got your ears on? We're in the quicksand and we're tossing you. I got a little rope here, or could you toss us a rope? Toss us a rope. We're going down. It is what it is. I mean, I think Project B is going to stomp this league right out of existence. And then we'll see. You know, you got to realize the NBA's working with NBA Europe. Okay, well, I mean, Project B is an overseas league, and there's a lot of reputable people involved in that league. You know? Again, unrivaled, no Sophie, no Asia, no Sabrina, no Caitlin, and no Angel. And if you gave that league truth serum, I bet you they would have told you 6 months ago, well, we'll have Sabrina Ionescu and Angel Reese. No, you won't.
Here's what makes this particularly fascinating from a business perspective. Early on, Unrivaled approached the WNBA with a partnership pitch. The league declined, understandably. Why would the WNBA help build a competing 3-on-3 league that could draw players away during the offseason? At the time, it was a reasonable business decision. But the situation is changing. The WNBA is negotiating a new collective bargaining agreement, and exclusivity clauses are on the table. Rules that could prevent players from competing in other leagues during the offseason. Sources indicate these clauses aren't part of the current CBA, and the league is still a season or two away from offering salaries high enough to justify exclusivity. But the trajectory is clear, and Unrivaled finds itself in a nearly impossible position. They can't compete with Project B on product alone. 5-on-5 basketball will always be more appealing to players than 3-on-3. They can't secure the biggest stars, who are either resting or waiting to see which league offers the best opportunity. And soon, exclusivity rules could make off-season leagues legally impossible under player contracts. The only viable path for Unrivaled is to integrate into the WNBA ecosystem, not as a competitor or alternative, but as a developmental or officially sanctioned off-season league. That's what nothing is off the table really means. Whatever deal keeps them alive. The opening game of the season illustrates the challenge. In a venue that holds just over 1,000, empty seats were visible. Social media engagement has been minimal, and the initial buzz has vanished. As Front Office Sports put it, the novelty of Unrivaled's inaugural season is gone. That novelty was supposed to carry them through year 2 while building sustainable fan engagement. Instead, the league launched its second season at noon on a Monday, competing against NFL Black Monday and WWE's Netflix anniversary. Not to maximize viewership, but simply to fulfill broadcast obligations. Strategic missteps abound. Unrivaled positioned itself as the premier off-season destination, but chose a format stars don't want to play. They raised massive investment based on projected growth, but are losing talent to a league that doesn't even exist yet. They built a small arena to create intimacy but can't fill it. And they launched their second season at the worst possible time on the sports calendar. These aren't bad luck, they're symptoms of a fundamental misreading of the market. Women's basketball players want 5-on-5 action, and fans want to follow the stars during the WNBA season. Unrivaled currently has neither. So what happens next? Alex Bazel's comments suggest discussions are underway about joining the WNBA infrastructure. That could mean becoming a G League-style developmental system, a sanctioned off-season league with special roster rules, or even being acquired outright. Over the coming months, watch whether the WNBA engages with Unrivaled's overtures, whether Project B launches with the star power Unrivaled couldn't secure, and whether Unrivaled reaches a third season, and if so, whether they stick with 3-on-3 or abandon the format entirely. With empty seats, missing stars, a competing 5-on-5 league on the horizon, and leadership openly signaling nothing is off the table, Unrivaled isn't projecting strength, it's projecting desperation. And in professional sports, once desperation is visible, the vultures start circling. What do you think happens to Unrivaled? Does the WNBA step in and save them? Does Project B crush their business model, or do they survive as an independent 3-on-3 league despite losing the star power war? Drop your predictions in the comments, and stay tuned, because this story is just getting started.